Tues Maria for causing up to Corja. Welcome all to this, our first trios reading as part of the April is Poetry Month Festival in Limerick for 2026. Just before we start introducing our three guests, I thought it would be nice to take a moment to remember Gabriel Rosenstock, Michel Shaw, Musical Nogobli and launching his collection Headlines, his bilingual take on headlines from the New York Times, and some of the stuff that he wrote then is even more relevant now, and I can't give a better tribute than some of the ones we've seen this week, but I just wanted to mention him here as part of this year's festival. So tonight we're going to hear from three fantastic poets. We will have Eoin Devereux, Studer and Michael Dooley. So just to begin with, our first reader tonight is Eoin Devereux, Professor of Cultural Sociology at the University of Limerick, and he also teaches on UL's MA in Creative Writing. He's co-editor of landmark books on David Bowie, Morrissey, Joy Division and The Fall. His fiction and poetry have appeared in the Irish Times, on RTE Radio 1 and in too many leading journals to mention. His work has been shortlisted for the Hennessy New Irish Writing Award and the Onpost Irish Book Awards. A performer on Eat the Storms and Words Lightly Spoken, he also curated the 2022 broadsheet April is the Cruelest Month, and his debut collection Gardening Leave, which was published by 451 Editions, is available here tonight as well if anybody would like to read more of his work. So to get us started, welcome everybody, Eoin Devereux.
Margaret Moss. It's lovely to be here in number 2, Perry Square, and I'm going to start with a long poem, and the other ones will be somewhat shorter. This is Ordnance Survey 1974. With neither map nor compass, Ordnance House, Newtown Mahon is my starting point as I traipse the street of the mad, the dead and the bad. At the pitch pine gates of Shaw's bloody slaughterhouse, the sweet and sour smell of pig shit wafts over the squeals of terror. The siren beckons clogged pork butchers, sharpening their knives of steel to carve the finest cuts of ham and bacon for the bone china plates of the well-heeled, while the city's poor devour the entrails of swine. Under the watchtower of the jail, in front of its needle-pointed railings, my first salute is from a dancing, tweed-coated, toothless man. "Well, boss," he says. He waltzes alone. His name is Raymond Troy, but known to all since the day he was born as Bisto. Caruso, arms outstretched, he sways and sings a ballad of his own making. This street was named after the Lord Lieutenant. He visited just once when we had landlords and tenants. The son of a Tory, he became a Whig. This majestic boulevard is famous for the pig. A writer and dandy by temperament, too honest for politics, they say he was the last of the true romantics. Oh, Normanby Street has everything. Markets to sell butter and hay, a battery to keep the natives at bay, a cobbled yard to drill young men sent out to die for empire and king. It has early houses for the thirsty and loveless, a boot factory for the shoeless, a jail to punish the poor, a tea importer, a headstone maker, a dusty flour mill for the baker, a rope walk for making a noose, a fair green with frisky horses and wild cattle on the loose, a madhouse if you're not right in the head, a spacious graveyard for when you're dead. The whole town knows Bisto. He drank a spinster aunt's farm, 40 good acres with frontage near Ballybricken, in the rats from drink, but well enough to be let out each morning from the lunatic asylum. In his surgeon's hand, the singing, waltzing Pierrot clenches a crumpled paper twist to cargo coins of silver and copper when he heads to Mousy Delaney, the blind huckster. Bistow's scribbled list doesn't vary very much. A golden pimple net quart of Lucasade for poor demented Jackie Stritch, a few loose players for Mad Mary, the Examiner for Father Tom Tracy, a bar of fries for Jimmy Morrissey, hair clips and rouge for Michael the lady. When his errands are complete, Bistow will return to Joseph's, where straight-jacketed time is counted by the asylum's four-faced clock. The days of ice-cold baths are long gone, banished like the all-seeing eyes of the governor's panopticon. In these more enlightened days, the tormented are treated with wonder drugs, talk therapy and ECT. I continue my stroll, nodding at a few more familiar faces, broken men and women whose countenances are marked with the crow's feet of poverty. I pass the gaunt Victorian villas on the left-hand side of the street. Boru House is my next stop, constructed in 1880 AD, a lofty red-bricked house built for a horse dealer with notions. Just last week, an obituary in the Times of London revealed that his famous writer-daughter was sadly deceased. 200 yards up from the green, just across from the pike, the fair green wall is beginning to crumble. White, hand-painted words boldly proclaim, "Kenny for the council." I first heard of Big Jim at my grandmother's funeral. Under a black mantilla, a pillar of the community asked, "What's that fucking communist doing here?" The solid stonemason stayed at the back of the cathedral, quietly paying his respects. I cross the forked road, continuing on my way. My quarry this August morning is to find the final resting place of Ellen Sharkey, aged 53 in 1855. Ellen was the very first to be placed under the stony, lonely soil at Spittleland, location 90A. For 6 years, the wealthy of the town refused to be buried alongside the poor, starving and demented. This was finally resolved by creating separate quarters for the poor and the quality. Who says death has no hierarchy? A lot of the poems in Garden Leave, certainly the early poems, deal with my, I suppose, experience in terms of growing up in a working class community, in a working class family. And a lot of the book is kind of almost like an archaeological dig in terms of my family's history. And I write a lot about class and sometimes the stigmas that are associated with being from a working class background. But also in the book, I also reflect on, I suppose, what I kind of facetiously call kind of middle class kind of paranoia about working class people. And this is one of these poems. It's called Foxes. During her regular morning walk, Mrs. Flynn stopped to warn me about foxes. "They're coming out here," she said, "from those welfare estates in town, throwing shapes, drinking, shifting, spitting, travelling by e-scooter, bus, bicycle or stolen car. And," she added, "I have it on good authority that their ringleader is a guy named Ginger Hickey. It's not just our designer chickens, deluxe wheelie bins or bespoke Angora rabbits they're after. Oh no, my new infrared doorbell camera has captured them casing houses, checking windows, doors, even our pristine 25-2 Tesla cars. Shy Brian in number 3 told me that just last week 2 Todds in designer black hoodies jumped a shop counter demanding chicken rolls, cigarettes and cider. Mrs. Flynn, he said, you should have seen the go hack of them with their blood-red docks, fade cuts and bling. And Shy Brian from number 3 added, sometimes, Mrs. Flynn, there are vixens wearing nothing but pyjamas false eyelashes smothered in fake tan, all the while suggestively shaking their BBLs. It's like the Kardashians. These foxes, Mrs. Flynn warned, are a serious threat to our community. For we are the people who get up early in the morning, and now there is talk of more of them coming here from out foreign. That will be even worse. Those foreign foxes haven't a word of English. Something will have to be done by someone. We'll have to gate the estate, close the borders, remain vigilant, or else there will be anarchy. A complete breakdown of everything we have worked for, of everything we hold dear. I was coming in for the reading this evening, and not well, kind of part of this is usually the way I come, but also it struck me as being all this great synchronicity. So I was going past the Good Shepherd laundry, and I was thinking about the street there that I always knew as a child as the Long Can. And of course, the name in Limerick, the Long Can, is a derivative of Lancastrian, the Lancastrian house of industry. And this is the Long Can about the women who were incarcerated in the Good Shepherd laundry. The headlines were silent on the white-collar crimes of the rich, mute on employers who underpaid. No ink was ever wasted to tell the story of the girls who scrubbed shit from sheets and smalls. Nothing at all was written about the older ones enslaved for life to handcraft delicate gossamer lace. Not a single word was said about those Sundays when the incarcerated faithful entered the tiny church through an underground tunnel and sat in their own quarters, or how the mothers amongst them had to crane their necks in an effort to see their orphaned sons and daughters queuing for communion. Not a syllable was permitted in chapel, workshop or laundry between those women and girls and the town's devout citizenry, jailed without trial in the Long Can, their only crimes being poor, being stupid, or being a source of temptation. I've been fascinated by the life and experience of Sean Burke. And last 2 years ago I published a poem called Pravda about Sean Burke. And I suppose even as a young fella in Limerick, when I began to sort of go to places like Joe Malone's, Underage, and all the rest of them, sort of seeing what was going on around the city, I was aware of the presence of this guy called Sean Burke. And then through my wonderful, beloved uncle, Seamus O'Connell, I learned, of course, all about the springing of George Blake and the kind of stories about Sean Burke, about how he had effectively made about today's equivalent of about €1 million in advance or royalties for his book, The Springing of George Blake, and how he drank this money. But he also gave a lot of the money away. He supported Jim Kemming, I mentioned earlier, in lots of causes and so on. So he was an intriguing figure to me. And I published one called Pravda, but I have a second poem about him in Garden Leave. And I was actually, and I don't go to Kilkee much in the summertime when it's too busy, but I tend to go there in the winter to walk around. So last Sunday I was walking around Kilkee and I was thinking a lot about Sean Burke and the time that he spent there. And this is a poem called Interior Weather, which is about Sean Burke in Kilkee. On doldrum days, no words flow. I borrow a jet black mongrel from a stout man camping near the potholes. The dog and I take the salty air, tramping our Stygian way to Newfoundland, George's Head or Burns's Cove. On doldrum nights, in my rattling wind-whipped caravan, perched near the Percy French estate, I sing and raise my only glass to ghost voices, pinched jail faces from Dangan and Wormwood Scrubs, scribblers who once visited this coastal town, Che Guevara, Charlotte Bronte and Alfred Lord Tennyson. On brighter days, overcoated and bunkered, I'd batter a pawned typewriter and a shelter of grey cement, facing the calm sea as the gulls slow dive in search of prey. I hammer out 2,000 words a day, remembering Mike Randall and Pat Pottle, my latest exegesis revealing dark secrets of MI6 and the KGB. So most of the poems in Garden Leave, when I say most, the majority, perhaps 60% of the poems in Garden Leave are set in Limerick, but the remaining pieces are set in Wexford, and more particularly they're set in a town called Enniscorthy. And Enniscorthy is where my father was from, and my father's family were bicycle makers, and they had a bicycle shop there, and bicycles actually appear a lot in the poetry as well. There must be some profound reason for that, but they tend to crop up a lot in the poetry. So this is a poem called The Anchor Man, and it's about my dad. P.A. Crane took the snap. Some 7 weeks after the emergency, 3 men sitting on a strange-looking bicycle, a triandum on the footpath outside the family shop. At the rear, my grandfather, steel rod straight, commands the scene. In the middle, my uncle, dapper, smiling, suited and quiffed, every bit the Hollywood star you'd see on the Astor screen. Up front, my father, holding the others steady, looking ahead, feet planted firmly on the ground, always the anchor man. So, as I said, my family in Wexford were bicycle makers, and I repair bikes and fix bikes myself, even now. And as I say, bicycles turn up a lot in my work. And this is a poem which was published as part of the centenary of Revolutions, and it's a poem called Revolutions. In fact, sorry, I'll actually read two. I'll read the poem before it and Revolutions before I finish. Okay, so it's a story. Dublin 2 is the story of the making of the bicycle, and then Revolutions, the follow-on poem, is what happened to the bicycle when it's sent to Enniscorthy. Dublin 2. Etched on the upright post, underneath my Brooks leather saddle, a simple cipher tells the place, the week, the month, the year I was first assembled. The alphanumeric code reveals I was crafted by Dublin hands in an alpine roofed factory where the Dodder kisses the Liffey at famed Hanover Quay. Mauser Nolan from Inchicore, indentured for just 2 years, built my sturdy rally frame. When he was done, charge hand Frankie Byrne, born and reared in nearby Ringsend, added tires of Indian rubber and a shiny St. Christopher bell. Pat Morrissey, a labouring man from Irishtown, pumped my tires, oiled every crank, nut, bolt and moving part, before proudly wheeling me over Buck Bridge to Enion Street Station. Secured in the guard's van and dispatched on the evening goods train, the sloping, sleepy town of Enniscorthy was my final destination. So the bike arrives, and it's on sale in the window of Devereux Cycles on Rafter Street in Enniscorthy. And this is what happens next. Liam Doyle bought me from Eugene Devereux, cycle agent Enniscorthy, for 5 shillings a week on the Never Never. By trade a miller, I transported him at sunrise to Davis's dusty flour mills and wheeled him home in the evenings to Lower Irish Street via a thirsty detour. I was chained to the railings while he met his friends in Billy Stamp's fine establishment on Market Square. Some 5 years later, it was a small repair job, a slight tear on my Brooks saddle that reunited cycle agent and miller. Devereux recruited Doyle to the Wexford A Company of the Irish Volunteers. In April 1916, I played my part in the 4-day revolution, ferrying grub to the Athenaeum, carrying ammunition to the men who took over Dodo Roach's castle and the stumpy windmill on Vinegar Hill. I escorted my owner to patrol Scarra Walsh, Ferns, Oilgate, Ballycarney, and with word of surrender, back to his home in Irish Street, Enniscorthy. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you all. I shudder to think of what my bike would say about me if it could talk. I left it out the back garden for most of the winter. We started using it again this week, and it is definitely needs some oil. It's fabulous to be hearing poems about Limerick and surrounded by so many pieces of Limerick poetry. And we're next going to hear from Castleconnell poet Marie Studer. She grew up in Ballymackie in Nina in County Tipperary, but we won't hold that against her. Her work has appeared in journals and anthologies at home and abroad. She won the Trócaire Poetry Ireland competition in 2020 and was among the winners of the Bangor Phrastic Poetry Challenge in 2019 and 2021, and is also shortlisted in other competitions. She holds BA in Comparative Literature, History and Sociology from the University of Limerick, and Real Words, her debut collection, was published by Rival Press a few short years ago. Welcome, Marie Studer.
So I read first from my collection, Real Words, and I'll start off with a poem from my rural background, Safekeeping. It's from my mom. I roll fluff in the pocket of your red floral apron. Remember you say, instinct will serve you well, setting a colander of apples on the table. I sift saucers of flour into your delf bowl, sugar, a chunk of butter, coax the mix to a pliant ball with hands of raised veins like yours. Always make 2 or more. When they smell it, they want it straight away. But it's better on the second day, you'd say, riddling the red pit in the range. Over and back with the rolling pin, my wrists strive for your deft touch. My heart, your no-nonsense repartee, as I line pirates' plates with pastry. Slivers of Bramley, sprinkles of sugar, and as you preferred, a pinch of cinnamon and crushed cloves. Its alchemy covered and crimped with the tines of a fork. The shavings I sculpt into your insignia, 3 veined leaves, always from the centre. Now I say, sliding the tarts into a digital oven, your voice smile in safekeeping, memory wafting the sweet spice aroma of our after-dinner tete-a-tete, your crossed legs swinging with each sweet afton puff. And just balance it, one from my dad. It's called Treasure. And usually we just got small little thin bird of Cadbury's chocolate as a treat, but this day he came home with something different. Treasure. I see you dip into a brown paper bag, pull out a promise, slide it across the table with the swagger of throwing dice. The red silver package wafts exotic notes of treasure. I pick until the last mosaics melt in my tongue. Suck the snow-white dome clean off the biscuit base. Sandals kicking pleasure on the legs of the chair. You flatten the wrapper with your big daddy palm. One half you curl around your middle finger. The other you pinch, and with sleight of hand conjure a chalice. Present to 4 years old me. So when I did get a little bit away from my rural background and I went dancing, This was my experience, my first experience. Takeaway score. I still savour the sting of Ostuni's salt and vinegar chips, though not the time I shrank under a grey streetlight of a staggering takeaway line on the street of a Midlands town. Decibels of bravada and grumblings hissed hotter than vats of bubbling oil. Obscenities spilled onto the street, egging two local lads on. Eyes to eyes posturing grunts, snap spear of swinging fists, knuckles breaching flesh, bone cracking bone. My cold sweat and rising bile crushed the red and white hand-warming snack box as the blood-soaked teens were shunted away by police. The aimless Pontius Pilate crowd muttered, falling back into line. Next day, two sixth-year boys, faces like Atlas mountain ranges, talked up neighbouring parish scores, backslappers in tow. So the next poem I wrote around the time of the HSE cyber attack. I was working in health services at the time, so it's nothing to do with health services. I was thinking of how my mother would react. Data protection. He stretched his legs under the hospitality of her kitchen table, listed the locals recently deceased, those who reached old age, those taken young. She offered currant cake. He reached for a slice and asked in a flash, "What age would you be now, Noni?" She returned the plate to ellipses equalised on oilcloth. Smiling benignly, she inquired, "What age would you think I am?" He subtracted generously from the score. "Near enough," she said. "No hacker would ever crack my mother's personal information or ransom her ware." So before I move on to some new poems, I want to read the first and the last poem in the Real Words collection. First, this is Declaration, and this was the poem that won the Troker Poetry Ireland Award. The theme of the competition was Standing Her Ground, and I based the poem on the experiences of women in Honduras and Kenya. Declaration. Back and forth, waist through shoulders, feet firm, knuckles like a hill chain. She rolls speckled stone on stone as kernels succumb to white flour, rhythm of her morning mantra. I will not stand by as they syllable up sweet talk with their 30 pieces of silver. Look at your corrugated roof, they say, and think of your children. I will not stand by as they covet my giving acre of plantains, white corn and beans, and target neighbours to get me out. I will not stand by as excavators growl and the mother lode is filched from cavernous pits, their tailings poisoning our water. I will not stand by as they drill for veins of gold dust and unearth the bones of my people from their final resting place. Around the table, children chatter as they shrink the stack of tortillas. And all the while, she hugs the mother cup to the rhythm of her thought for today. I am provider, defender, and memory keeper. And just following on from that, this next poem I wrote a couple of years back, I think maybe it was around 22. Refugees were bused to Clare, and there was a reaction to them there. And it isn't just Clare, of course, all the other places as well. The vernacular. He wakes from the same dream. snow falling as ashes in streets gasping for air. Men pushing him to sea on a swell of pretenses, swallowing the lives of children, women, men. Hope flickers on the cross-country shuttle. Hills are beacons of firs. Towns flash multiculture, though blunting billows counted colours. Dawn glares intent on his 3-foot bed as big-throated tractors rev the vernacular with walls of hay bales. And some of us conveniently forget that our ancestors fled, their escape made easier by skin that slid into the status quo to share the privilege of that dream. So this next poem is on a similar vein, and I was going to a poetry workshop by Molly Tooley, and I was looking for directions to the event. This is what happened. Muse in a cafe. The youth sets my latte by the till, shrugs at my query for the way to the poetry event as he banters with another on a match fixture. While a woman, smiling warm as the roast brew, pours care into the heart of a cappuccino, then hands me a festival flyer over the buttery aroma of the pastries display. Seeing me peer at the small print, she slips from behind the counter and in the new language of her host country, points to a green door on the street. Her kindness, far from the fire of her mother tongue home, writes this workshop poem. And this next poem is a Gaza poem, and I've set it where I live in Castlecommon. There's a beautiful scenic spot called the World's End. I'm sure a lot of you know it. So I walk there most days. The World's End. We walk by the River Shannon, recalling our grandchildren's visit. Conversation turning, as it does in these days, to the innocents in Gaza. Innocence to never again run fits and starts by the bank of a coursing green river on its way to the sea, laughing at swans cocking tails, dive bombing for greens. Families to never again feel the joy of everyone home, like that first post-quarantine huddle, when our global family flushed smiles and tears on the slipway of the World's End. So this next poem was inspired by my grandson, and I just got an email this evening before I came out to say that it's been shortlisted for the Celta Awards. So. Later now. My grandson is pushing a train on the kitchen floor, and with a smile as sunny as the Legos' primary colours, he angles for a Paw Patrol cartoon on TV. To my promise of later, he rises inch by inch to reply, "I want later now." I bend to his pout, bolstering our to-dos. Snack, playground, a stop at George's shop. His stamp softens. I carry him to the clock's slow, steady beats, and in seconds he agrees to let the hands go unseen to 4:15. Sucking biscuit crumb off his lips, he snaps a sleeper from the line of carriages, then thrusts the express on. His words, a whistle stop, to a time when all I wanted was later. Now that it is later, all I want is now. okay for time?
You're okay.
Yeah. Okay, this next poem was inspired by a Dennis O'Driscoll poem. Dennis, the Thurles poet who died too young. And his poem was called Someone is Dressing Up for Death Today. On a morning to come. On a morning to come, will I say, please pass the milk, or overreach, nursing a huff, as sometimes I do? Will you spoon blueberries in a bowl of warm oats, stir swirls as purple as Good Friday vestments, or see no design at all? Will I pop vitamin supplements, scrolling articles on the screen before sorting that basket of discarded things? Will you collapse carton and tin in a recycling bin, plant that net of sprouting bulbs, aching for freshly turned clay? Will I add colour-boosting shampoo to a shopping list, then slide fingers to heaves, poising a bridge on a blue rubber mat, seconds pulsing neon on my wrist? No matter, my love, our peaks will slide as they always do, when either you or me will be first to dress in a morning coat. Sunday writes, so myself and my husband, we read news obviously on our devices during the week, but on Sunday we love newspapers, crackling and to read them on breakfast. So this is Sunday writes, R-I-G-H-T-S. We sip tea, relish our once a week second helpings of gold buttered toast, despite out-of-sync cholesterol scores. My husband quotes snippets of conflict analysis from newspapers spread on the table, says he misses the acuity of Robert Fisk, repeats, listen to this and this. I offer a cent or a slant before the bugle of Sunday assembly. He ceases commentary, other than an occasional rustle or disc. I top up my cup to the medley of ritual. So this next poem was inspired by this disc, a gift my husband gave me when he was going away. So it's called Voyage. He wasn't my husband yet. He was only 20. Voyage. It was your going away gift to me, a gold disc on a gold chain, engraved with a mermaid above my family name. While you were gone, I gazed from shore to horizon, my gilded talisman beaming like a frenzied lens lantern as the tide dispersed time's precious grains. Occasionally, storms dented the noble metal, and though the crest etching is fading, my sea sister lies warm on my aging skin, steadfast as you, the North Star of our voyage. Okay, it's the last one. So I suppose as soon as you hear that have taught your children to drive, so I had that experience with my son. It's called Tested. Every morning my son was learning to drive. He throttled grey clouds as if set for the off in Mondello. Beside him, I pumped an imaginary brake on heart-quickening curves, to green showering the screen, only unclenching my fists when he pulled a stop and aimed in a spot by my office. At the airport, when he sprinted one way, I turned before his last wave was my crash.
Amazing
how we can come to one event and hear poems about violence and inequality and prejudice, and then at the same time hear these lovely tender memories and moments. Even reminiscing about my grandmother's apple tarts there when you started, things that stay with you forever. Is your book here tonight as well?
It is, yeah.
We have copies of all three of our poets' books available tonight at the table for anybody who's interested at the end of the night. And our third reader is Michael Dooley. His poems have appeared in Banshee, the Irish Independent, Poetry Ireland Review, The Stinging Fly, and have been broadcast on RTE Radio 1. His debut collection, In Spring We Turned to Water, from Dira Press, was shortlisted for the Farngate Cafe National Poetry Award and was jointly awarded the Southward Debut Poetry Collection Award. He is a teacher and lives in County Limerick. Everybody welcome Michael Dooley.
Thank you very much. And thank you for having me here this evening. I don't know how you follow poets, typos, and readers. Like, beautiful readers, instructive. A few years ago I was fortunate enough to be at the Stone Circle in Grange for the solstice when the clouds parted and the sun made its way through. It just so happened to be the case that there were musicians and musicologists with Iron Age instruments, Dords and Carnixes and so on at the same time. So an experience at Grange, Stone Circle, solstice. At the foot of the orthostat, a pagan girl seizes a cotton dress, threshing on a line she whips and flails in dawnlight. Signing the cross, a drunk wanders trip-footed to hedgerow, a child circumnavigates his mother's leg. The altar she has made by the sun passage of cloth and candle, idle in oak twigs, blinks across the enclosure. She moves in the mangle of a struck cat, kiss and flip, scratch of earth fingers, fluent and mercurial as the triskelion on her leg. Grange is woken now by the calf scream of trumpets. Songbirds halt like Romans hearing for the first time the Celts. Figures move for the portal, sidestep manure of Wayland shushed away at dusk. And in the throat song, the Bowron beat of frenzy they war with elbow and etiquette for viewing rights of a light that may shine through, and do not notice that she has stilled and is smiling, having found her God. I worked for many years with racehorses as an exercise rider, a stable lad, an amateur jockey. Sweet pea. We bounced the gallops at dawn, blooded cuticles of my fingers twirling in the wire brush mane. I call her Sweet Pea because when she was born, she climbed up and blossomed. Now her leg is a broken October stalk, wrecked as a child's straw. The vet prepares his gun. I lean down to calm her, wet bridle in my hands when her pole breaks out in flower, the mane in olive pods. Before I reach to touch them, she straightens with a pluck. Years and years and years ago, in the milking parlour at home with my dad. And it was a warm summer, and the radio was blasting over the sound of the milking machine, and it was the news, 95 FM. And it was just one particular story, news story that sometimes you're just troubled by these things, and they stay with you. Peninsula at night. He swore he had seen her drink from the teat of a cow, and she was a hare then. The sea stack pops its head above the swell, lights again in the rear view mirror. Loophead roads wind in narrow buckles like hawthorn or chine of dying sheep. Horses could not keep from him the thought of her. In the doorway she listens against the quietness. The Atlantic, bubbling like a sleeping child, stone teething through soil, a snitch, snitch, snitch of cattle grazing in darkness, the hinge of a gate on a windless night, a questioning of herself, a low growl from the dog. By grace of God, I'm a teacher, and I will often end up spending many hours staring at a stack of copies. And in one such occasion, daydreaming, looking out the window, became fixated again on the wreck, the armature, the remains of an ash tree, as it was succumbing to that dreadful disease. And I was looking at this tree, again, ash, one of our 7 noble trees. I think dieback was first noted here in 2012. 90% of the trees that are affected by it will die. We have another 350,000 kilometres of hedgerow, whitethorn hedgerow, in trouble with regard to fire blight as well. I'm looking at this tree and I'm kind of thinking I'd love to engage and to write about it and to do it justice. And I couldn't figure a way into it. I was listening to Bianca Stone, the American poet, on the New Yorker Poetry podcast, and she reached this beautiful Ars Poetica called So What's Poetry Like? And she has this line in it, she calls it the original state of language which you're trying to get back to from within. And I thought, there's my chance. And I thought I'd take a crack at this from the perspective of the tree. For ash tree dying on roadside, a son. And some late morning then there was a world around me. Roadside grasses swung their droplet-headied heads, agreed that I had come formed and purposeful as a foal, and that they would love me in their simple and ordained way. Blackbirds pierced like gannets the green swell of my coat, their nets, coracle and pottery, a flotilla on the limbs. At night I danced alone and dreamed of being water. I filled my pockets in hot breezes, ran deep my roots for the hidden springs. Each morning I waited for the sky to lighten to a wren's egg and thanked it when it did. In October the machines came, so I gave up my throat to God as I was ready. They flayed blackthorn, pulled from its socket sloes like eyes, dressed me as a gibbet in its many skins. I cried for spring. Magpie at my shoulder scorned me, crows bowed on fence posts, a solemn Queen Anne drill. I undertook my silence then, turned in summer from fox cubs teasing at my bark, the poor gelt foostering for peas in the tails of my autumn dress. The next spring I had no nests, and when my fingers blackened for lack of a bud and my crown rusted to a wrecked hull, a raven came to comfort me and said it would be soon. For months I raged that they would not strike me with a blade, that no sudden storm could give to me my public lamentations. I was a curiosity in moonlight, a shorn antler for small creatures nosing in the dark. So I will make my last music with this husk against the wind. Will sing as my trunk hollows to a bone-strewn kist and gusts play me as a pipe. And this music will be beautiful, oh, it will be beautiful. It will be in a tongue you do not understand, and the horse in the front field will startle for days when she hears it. The foxes will walk across your yards in sunlight. The herons will give all to their screeching, and when still you do not act, you will write me verse and wonder, had I a woman's voice? I grew up in a piece of land between Bruff and Aclaca, a farm in an area called the Corcus, and the Corcus Square is marshland, and the marshland it very much is. When I was young, very young, I found a book by local historian Manek's Choice, and he captures the folklore of the area and tells the story of, you know, the horseman, the Marca of the Corcus, and if you're caught down the Corcus at night, you know, he'll trap you there, he'll ride around you all throughout the night and so on. Now, of course, there's a very pragmatic reason for those frightening stories, I suppose, to keep you out of the dangerous place at night with deep trenches and so on. But, you know, 9-year-old me didn't know that. And this story left an impression, and I've always been kind of fixated with the motif of the field from which you cannot leave. Meadow at dusk. There's a herd of dairy cows in the 9 acres tonight. It is dusk, midsummer. Everything is alive and growing. It is so hot. You breathe with your skin. I am walking home from the river with hands that smell of trout. Meadow foxtail covers the tongues of my boots like cortege flowers. One by one, cows begin to fold and fall in the evening sun until eventually the long field looks like an abandoned game of chess. I close my eyes and listen to the rip of grass stalks, the grinding of cod, a magic regularity like soldiers on the move. And when I open them, there is a hare standing in a gap between the cows, head high in the evening air, frame as still as a post. I want to beat my foot on the dried out soil, to squeal a cry of danger, glint between the bitter dock, find some shadow in which to slip my form. I stand so still, I begin to forget what I am. Everywhere there is restlessness. Leaves tighten, daisies narrow in the dark. I know that if I close my eyes again, I may not leave this field. I'll do one more. Two teenagers standing in the rain. Blink and disappear in the light of passing cars. Above them, wind slaps a flagstaff, its empty halyard a frenzy of applause. Something in the shape of their embrace, mould setting, the development of film, and an oscillation of bare root trees. Men pass at the door of the buggies, faces tangled away from one another. An old woman picks at a scratch guard. Minutes pass, and they have not moved. The splash of road water lifts up around them, and for a moment against the street light they are a statue, grottoed by 1,000 candles, a site marked as the ground of revelation, a place for those who understood once at least a certainty of this world. Thank you very much.
Fantastic stuff, Michael. No need to fear following any other poet. Can I get one more round of applause? It's really fantastic stuff.
three masterful poets, and hopefully we can get a group photo with you before you disappear. So thank you all for coming here tonight. It was an absolutely joyful occasion to be part of. I thought I'd be too tired for it, but I'm delighted I came as well. As I said already, there are books available from the table at the back. We also have quite a few other fantastic events to look forward to. The brochure is available at the back. I think pretty much everybody here has seen the schedule for the month already. But just some of the highlights coming up in the next few days will be in the Bell Table tomorrow evening at 6:30 for a celebration of 50 years of the Stony Thursday book. And Friday night we'll be back here again for a very exciting book launch, John Liddy's latest collection, True to Form. But as well as that, we've got weeks and weeks of other fantastic things to look forward to, so do check them out if you get the chance. Thanks again to the People's Museum for hosting us as well. They're fantastic hosts for a lot of our events and book launches. And thank you all again for coming. I hope you enjoyed the night.
Headlights illuminate the million steps I have to take. I escape the masquerade, heading for the light of day. I found love in a silver bit.